And a new trend on TikTok may actually have some health benefits. What's this all about?
The newest fascination on TikTok is silent walking.
One of the most annoying trends these days is the trend of making things
there's a new trend from Gen Z right now. It's called silent walking.
That's right, everyone. TikTok. Specifically, Gen Z has discovered something that most of us have been doing forever, and while it's tempting to laugh, many millennials are already making fun of them.
They've coined this new movement called the silent walk movement.
Silent walking, and it means to go for a walk without headphones.
It's just a walk.
Yeah.
I must point you to a quote that might make you stop being so snarky. In 1710, Jonathan Swift gave us a phrase that exemplifies all of the grifters and con artists in the fitness industry better than probably any other. A quote that is so good and so useful that people have incorrectly sourced this from Winston Churchill, Chinese proverbs, Mark Twain, and many more. But it's not the phrase itself that is so incredible. It's the way businesses and people have used it to sell us things we have already wasted decades of research on, hours of personal time testing, or thousands of dollars in some cases, sometimes even on things that are free. 5 words that repurpose everything and anything with a shiny new bow and a hefty new price tag. Everything old is new again. Look, I got my first dingy weight set when I was 13 or so, and I remember my dad telling me that to get strong and to gain size, I needed to squat, bench, and deadlift. Now, the first 2 I could get behind, but we all know
deadlifting is bad for your back, right?
even in high school weights, our coach wouldn't let us do it. How could they all be wrong? And it stayed that way until CrossFit repopularized it. If you look at most gyms before about 2010, there is not a single deadlift platform, but deadlifts aren't a new exercise. My dad had a 600-pound pull at his peak in the 80s and 90s. So how did this happen? How did we rediscover this? Well, everything old is new again. This isn't a video about deadlifting. This is a video about a form of fitness that is even older than deadlifting, older than organized gyms, older than those lovely metal circles we like to pick up and put back down, something that improves depression as much as the leading antidepressants, improves your digestion, your heart health, blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, but there is something here that separates nearly every revitalized fitness trend from this one that Gen Z is breathing new life back into. Is free. No one is selling you this, though there are ways to enhance its benefits through practice, according to some neuroscientists. Now you might be hearing this and thinking, wow, this sounds amazing. What's the catch? The catch is, unfortunately, as I said, my generation, millennials, have taken this positive rediscovery by Gen Z and used it as an opportunity to just dunk on them. So what is it? Of all things, walking. But not just plain, boring, normal walking. No, this is silent walking.
Silent walk. Silent walk. Silent walk.
That is what we're getting into today, guys, but not just what it is, because in theory, that is simple. We are going to cover what it is, why it's gaining popularity, the massive list of benefits, and how to make it even better. We'll be covering why all the millennials that are trying to roast Gen Z for this are actually massive hypocrites. Oh boy, have I got a big list of simple things that they all had to rediscover, and so much more. If this is your first time here, I make bi-weekly deep dives into fitness, nutrition, and wellness pop culture trends, as well as holistic bodybuilding and powerlifting content, so make sure to subscribe to hear more of that. For today's Amazon gift card giveaway, put a comment saying who you think is taking the L here, millennials or the Zoomers. So with all that out of the way, guys, my name is Andrew. Let's get into it.
It's trending on the social media app where TikTokers are actually encouraging people to go out and walk without AirPods or headphones, without podcasts and music playing, and without walking companions. Proponents say it allows people to be alone with their thoughts, and therapists are in agreement that silent walking can allow us to escape, even if for just a short period of time.
So it seems pretty simple, right? So why is silent walking blowing up like this? Maddie Mayo on TikTok, the person who coined the term, had this to say.
I was about to go out on my first 30-minute walk. My sweet boyfriend challenged me to walk without distractions. No AirPods, no podcast, no music, just me, myself, and I. And at first I was like, no, my anxiety could never, which is probably what you're thinking. And look, the first 2 minutes are mayhem. Your mind is racing, you're gonna have anxiety. Something happens after 2 minutes where your brain just gets into this flow state. And suddenly, you can Hear yourself.
This seems like a solution that fixes many problems. Think about this. A third of Americans have been diagnosed with depression at some point. Nearly 20% are currently being treated. Half are insulin resistant and dealing with weight complications related to it. 75% of Americans have some type of digestive issue.
Something happens after 2 minutes where your brain just gets into this flow state.
If you're not doing the 10-minute walk method after you eat, you guys are missing out. For every single meal, I like to go for a little 10-minute walk. It has helped so much with my digestion, I'm telling y'all. You can literally get up and pace your house for 10 minutes. If you have time to go outside for a walk, do that. Regardless of the method, just try to move around after you eat.
Sure, we all walk, but is there something to be said when you're doing something with a specific intention besides relocating yourself? If you live in a city, or at least a decently populated area, I encourage you to do some people watching. Actually look at folks and observe how many people have their headphones in when they're out. And keep in mind that over half of the US listens to podcasts, 81% listen to YouTube, and more than 500 million people are listening to Spotify daily. Then ask yourself, how many of these people are walking because they're trying to get somewhere versus how many of these people are walking because they have some intention behind it and they're walking for their mental or physical health. Some of you may be familiar with the word smombie or smartphone zombie, people who are completely distracted by their phones in public. Personally, I have had several close calls with these people while riding my scooter around town, completely oblivious to the world that is beyond their screen. And in my experience, most of them are these snarky millennials that are trying to infantilize Gen Z for doing something that, based on my experience, they're not even able to do. Many of them are the same people that are leaving comments like this. I love quiet walks, silent darkness sleep, and hydrating water showers. I find it very therapeutic to do these things alone sometimes. Or, I've been really into de-thawed ice lately. Or, one of my favorites, if Gen Z leaves their phone at home and goes for a walk, how do we know they actually went on a walk?
Tree, if one of you falls and there's no one around, do you make a noise?
Are you kidding? Scott fell last week. He hasn't shut up about it since.
Sure, stand there and bitch, but would any of you take the time to help me?
I'll be bringing this one specifically up later. Millennials were the first generation to be raised on their phone. So, what a lot of us were taught was, why wouldn't you be listening to a podcast or book in your downtime? That's when you can be learning. Moreover, why would you just be learning when you can be learning super fast?
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Something that I learned from Tom Bilyeu.
If you really want to get good at something, you are going to have to get deeply efficient. So if you want to be taking in knowledge faster in your books, the easiest way is to speed it up. So part of the reason that I take in information through the ears is that I can speed it up. So Audible, for instance, allows you to go 3x. That allows me to intake information a lot faster when I'm reading a book, speed things up. And look, in the beginning, you won't be able to do it, but you do want to be pushing yourself, find out where your limit is, because retention matters more than speed.
What this led to was us never having a quiet moment, never having silence to let our mind quiet and decompress and process our day as it is actually coming in. It's a bit froofy of a statement, but let's break that down. If you're having a problem that you need to find a solution for, but you keep pushing more info into your brain, how will you locate that solution that's inside you? Obviously, this doesn't apply to educational things like learning something for school that you just don't know, but processing an argument with your partner, coming up with a new business idea or product, that comes from intuitive places of silence. And most people never have that, not even in the shower. People listen to music or podcasts there too, and it's gotten to the point that younger generations don't actually know what the term shower thoughts means anymore. All these eureka moments are lost because our mental intake is never quiet. The weirdest part is people joke that what Gen Z has discovered here is walking, but what they've really found is meditation and mindfulness, or at least an aspect of it. In many of these videos, you'll notice that they're silent walking instead of being lost in what they're listening to, like a podcast or music, they are lost in their own thoughts. Oftentimes thinking about the fact that they are walking in silence. The irony that they are often actually talking to their phones is not lost on me and many of the people grilling them.
They're not being silent during them. They are recording themselves during the entire thing and talking about how silent this movement is.
But even when their phone is away, it's a likely assumption to think that they're probably just having a conversation with themselves in their head, right? This is the base level for most of us. In 2017, Sam Harris and Dan Harris, no relation, discussed this on the Joe Rogan Experience, episode 940. Dan talks about what is called metacognition, which is the awareness of the fact that you are thinking.
It changes your brain, and that over time creates the kind of metacognition I was discussing before, where you see the one who thinks and knows he or she thinks.
Then he breaks meditation down into 3 simple steps, which people often misunderstand.
So what do you do?
So, I mean, the basic steps of mindfulness meditation are to sit. Most people close their eyes. You bring your full attention to the feeling of your breath. You're not thinking about your breath. You're just feeling the raw data of the physical sensations. And then the third step is the biggie, which is as soon as you try to do this, your mind's going to go bonkers. You're going to start thinking about, what's for lunch, do I need a haircut, where do gerbils run wild, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're just going to notice, my mind's going crazy right now. But that noticing is the key moment, is in fact the victory. It's interesting because this is when most people think they've failed, I can't meditate because I can't clear my mind. This is the biggest misconception about meditation. You do not need to clear your mind. That's impossible unless you're enlightened or dead. The whole goal is just to notice when you become distracted and start again. You return your attention to your breath, and you just do that 1,000,000 times. And every time you catch yourself wondering and go back to your breath, it's a bicep curl for your brain.
The main difference here is that they are walking. Walking meditation is an interesting alternate way of meditating because as long as you have mastered the basics of seated meditation, you remove a major barrier to meditation: time and staying stationary. In theory, you could be doing this as you walk to work, though it does still come with its own challenges. Sam Harris, in his app, Waking Up, which I first subscribed to in 2018, had this to say about his own experience with it.
5 or 6 days into that retreat before I fully connected with walking meditation. So just be aware of the fact that it is not always immediately obvious that walking can be just as good a context for meditative concentration and insight, but it can be.
That clip, by the way, comes from a small series on the Waking Up app that is actually about walking meditation. So the benefit these folks on TikTok want is mindfulness, but the way they are attempting to acquire it needs maybe a 5 to 10 degree shift. When I first started meditating, I remember thinking I was awful at it because I couldn't stop thinking, when that was actually me successfully getting a meditative rep, so to speak. That is the practice. Remember, like Dan said, the goal isn't to clear your mind.
You do not need to clear your mind. That's impossible.
You do not need to clear your mind.
But it is also not to let your mind run wild. So why are we always listening to books, podcasts, YouTube, music? Sure, education, maybe, that's what we tell ourselves, but mixed into that is because it is an easy way to block cognitive suffering. You cannot be anxious about the upcoming work week if you're listening to a video about Jada Pinkett Smith dragging Will Smith for the 30th time.
So from the year 2016, which is 7 years ago now,
Yes.
y'all have been apart.
Yeah.
You cannot despair about your relationship if you are listening to your favorite song. But blocking thought with distraction is ultimately just a Band-Aid. The people drowning their thoughts in noise are doing so because they fear them.
But I am really anxious about, what am I going to think about? My anxiety could never.
I had so much anxiety.
In Marcus Aurelius' book, Meditation, he said, "The obstacle is the way." When we apply that to silent walking or meditation, Sam Harris says it more like this.
The superpower you're after, which you actually can acquire through this practice, is to realize that virtually all of your psychological suffering is a matter of being lost in thought. It's a matter of thinking without knowing that you're thinking. And what mindfulness does, and really any technique of meditation ultimately should do, is teach you to break the spell of being lost in thought. Until you learn how to meditate or do something like meditation, you're just helplessly thinking every moment of your life. You're having a conversation with yourself, whether it's imagistic or linguistic, so incessantly that you don't even notice it. It's just white noise. And not only does it completely color your experience moment to moment, so like if they're angry thoughts, you're angry. If they're depressed thoughts, you're depressed. If they're sad, you're sad. And it produces everything you do. It produces all of your intentions and your goals and your actions. And he said this about me, and now I'm going to say this. I mean, so it's like it's everything coming out of you is born of this same process. And meditation is a way of recognizing that consciousness, I mean, what you are subjectively is this prior condition of just awareness in which everything is showing up, sounds, sensations, and thoughts. And thoughts can become just other objects of consciousness.
What causes us anxiety is the way we let our thoughts consume us. I can personally think of 3 times in my life that meditation had prepared me for suffering, a breakup. When your mind is constantly thinking about what you did wrong, what they did wrong, where they are, who they're with, and what they're thinking about. Meditation helped me notice when my thoughts were spiraling and helped to quiet them. When I left my comfortable job managing trainers to go start my own personal training business, not only spiraling thoughts of what if I fail, but also quieting thoughts so I could work more effectively. And finally, moving to a new city. It combined those first 2, being alone, dating in a new city, starting a business again with no connections. If I hadn't been practicing meditation on and off my entire adult life, I would have been drowning in panic and possibly never taken that step. But it was when I first tried guided meditation that I really picked these skills up. Sam Harris's app, Waking Up, was the app that taught me it, and I still use it regularly. It is so important to me that I actually contacted them to get a free 30-day trial code for anyone who's listening to this, and I'm not getting paid for this. I gain nothing from you doing this, but the knowledge that someone hearing this will finally pick up meditation and have their life changed by it. It has an intro course if you've never done it. It has more advanced stuff. It's got lessons from other meditators. It is incredible. I cannot speak highly enough about it. So if you are ready to learn how to free yourself from all the cognitive suffering, tap into a practice that has been around for over 5,000 years and begin something that will fundamentally change how you are with yourself and others, you can go to app.wakingup.com/promotions/redeem or click the link in the description and enter the code Andrew for 30 days free. No credit card required. That's going to suddenly bill you at the end. No strings attached, just free. And I would love to see some comments on this video about how meditation has actually helped you, because someone out there is going to see it and it's going to be what gives them the push to actually take that step and try it for themselves. So the part you've all been waiting for. Let's make fun of the millennials together, shall we? But I do want to warn you, there is something very evil and insidious here at the end. So there's your warning. Remember earlier that quote, if a Gen Z goes for a walk without their phone, well, what about if a millennial doesn't post a photo of their parent on social media for their birthday, even though their parent doesn't have social media? Are they really a millennial? Remember when millennials rediscovered knitting? Shout out my sister's Instagram at Kirby's Crafts. Or journaling instead of vlogging? There was an entire hashtag for millennials who got into this, hashtag Booju. Or vinyl and cassettes. Like, are you kidding me? Analog music was dead, and now cassettes are at a 20-year high. Everything old is new again. Thrifting in pop-up shops. I went to a pop-up shop and someone wanted to sell me a ripped up Def Leppard shirt for $120 because it had character. Were you really a scene emo or grunge kid in the 2000s if you didn't take Polaroids? Like our parents did? Arcades, specifically barcades, are making a resurgence with millennials too, because we like gaming, but not just gaming. We have discovered retro gaming because it's old. And I can already hear the comments, Andrew, this is a fitness podcast. None of that really counts. But didn't millennials rediscover squatting, benching, and deadlifting thanks to CrossFit? Didn't I discover that in my garage with my dad and the tiny little weight set I grew up on? According to the US Department of Agriculture, millennials are eating more whole foods than any other generation and have even started urban gardening in the middle of cities. We rediscovered food, for fuck's sake. Everything old is new again. But nothing can top what millennials rediscovered last year in 2022. This is gonna freak a lot of people out. In response to growing mental health concerns, millennials adopted this practice. No, they created it. They took out their headphones, kept their phones on silent, and began the hot girl walk. Oh my God, what the fuck? This is literally just silent walk. Folks, what a wild ride we just went on together. I'd like to once again shout out the meditation app Waking Up and say that for anyone looking to get into meditation or walking meditation, use the code Andrew for 1 month free. Just click the link in the description of this video. And yeah, guys, thanks for sticking around. As usual, my name's Andrew. See y'all later. I bet you guys did not expect that deep of a dive and for it to be that crazy, did you? Well, if you want something just as wild, hit the video right there. That one that's linked up top. Or if you want to see what I've been up to more recently, that bottom one is my most recent video. See ya.